Millionaire judged this man by his simple appearance. In an expensive restaurant, the soft hum of a violin filled the air at Monarch and Vale, Chicago's most prestigious restaurant, where crystal chandeliers shimmered above a sea of designer suits and evening gowns. Mark Thorne sat by the window, sipping an aged wine and skimming his emails on his phone. A self-made millionaire, he had built his empire from the ground up, or so he liked to say. In truth, his wealth had grown faster than his humility. Everything about this place reflected him, sharp, exclusive, polished. So when the maître d' bent down and whispered that a man in work boots had shown up claiming to have a reservation, Mark nearly choked on his drink. "A man in what?" he asked, eyebrows raised. "You sure he's not here to fix the plumbing?" The maître d' looked uncertain. "Sir, he said his name is Cole Donovan. He booked online." Mark glanced toward the entrance and spotted the man. He looked wildly out of place, wearing a dusty coat, worn-out jeans, and scuffed boots. His thick beard and quiet confidence didn't match the usual crowd. "Let's not waste a table on a prankster," Mark muttered. "Tell him to try McDonald's." But when the host approached Cole, the man calmly pulled out his phone, opened the reservation app, and pointed to the screen. "Table for one, 7:30, see for yourself." The maitre d' blinked. Reservation confirmed. Mark's jaw tensed as he watched Cole be led, unbelievably, to the best seat in the house. His seat. Whispers began to float through the room. Couples leaned toward each other, murmuring. "Who let him in? Looks like he walked in from a bus stop. Maybe he's here as a dare." Mark leaned back and smirked. He waved over the sommelier and said, "Send that guy the cheapest wine you've got. Tell him it's on me." The sommelier hesitated, but did as instructed. Moments later, Cole received the bottle. He glanced across the restaurant, locked eyes with Mark, and smiled. A slow, calm, knowing smile. Then he raised his glass and said just loud enough for nearby tables to hear, "To appearances, they're often deceiving." Some guests chuckled uncomfortably. Mark's smirk faltered. Why wasn't this man embarrassed? Throughout the night, Mark kept glancing over, expecting the man to fumble with the menu or misuse his utensils. But Cole ordered confidently, pairing wines with dishes as though he were a sommelier himself. He even chatted briefly with the chef, complimenting the plating and flavor balance. By dessert, Mark couldn't take it anymore. He got up and walked over. "Enjoy your meal?" he asked, voice tight. Cole stood and met his eyes without flinching. "It was excellent. Good food. Pity about the company." Mark blinked. "Look, I don't know what your angle is, but..." Cole reached into his wallet and casually pulled out a solid black card. An American Express Centurion, the kind with no limit, issued by invitation only to the ultra-wealthy. "My angle?" Cole said calmly. "I was hungry. You just assumed I didn't belong." Mark's face flushed red. The restaurant had gone unusually quiet, all eyes on them. "You know the irony?" Cole added. "You were the only person in here who looked poor tonight. Poor in judgment. Poor in grace." Then he tucked the card back into his wallet, thanked the waiter, and walked out. Mark stood there stunned. That night, Mark couldn't sleep. The man's words echoed in his head. The next morning, he Googled Cole Donovan, expecting nothing. The first result took his breath away. Cole Donovan Foundation, Chamonix, billionaire investor turned philanthropist. Cole had once been a rising tech mogul, but had sold everything to focus on nonprofit work, helping homeless veterans, youth in poverty, and disaster-struck families. Mark stared at the screen. Cole was richer than him, much richer, and yet he had judged him over shoes. Determined to make things right, Mark returned to Monarch and Vale the following Friday. But this time, he wore jeans and a t-shirt. No expensive watch, no flashy cufflinks. As he walked in, heads turned. The very people who once nodded to him now stared with thinly veiled judgment. He didn't care. He sat at the same table and waited. At exactly 7:30, Cole walked in. Same coat, same boots, same quiet confidence. Mark stood and walked over. "Can I buy you dinner?" he asked. Cole looked him over. "Only if you join me in what you're wearing." Mark gave a small nod. "Already did." They sat together, and this time, the staff greeted Cole with warmth and deference. The chef himself stopped by to say hello. Mark was stunned. "You've been here before?" he asked. Cole nodded. "I donated to their culinary scholarship fund. Didn't think I needed a tux to eat the food I helped make possible." Mark looked down at his plate. "You didn't just humble me," he said softly. "You changed me. I never realized how entitled I'd become." Cole gave a faint smile. "We all have blind spots. You just met yours, in a mirror wearing boots." They laughed quietly. 2 weeks later, Cole invited Mark to visit a youth center on Chicago's South Side, part of his nonprofit's latest project. Mark watched as Cole greeted every kid by name, sat on the floor with them, shared stories, taught job skills, and passed out meals. Some of these children had been judged and dismissed like Cole had. Some had never been given a real chance. Mark felt a lump in his throat. These kids had nothing, yet they had more courage than half the people he did business with. That day changed something in Mark. He quietly became a donor to Cole's foundation. But more than that, he became a partner in purpose. Together, they launched a new initiative called Table for All, a program pairing struggling youth with professionals over shared meals. Not to impress, but to connect. At the launch dinner, Mark wore his old tailored suit again. But this time, when a boy named Elijah arrived in a hoodie and ripped sneakers, Mark didn't flinch. He walked over, opened the door, and smiled. "You're up first, Elijah," he said. "Tonight, we're all equals at this table." Elijah blinked. "Even you?" Mark chuckled. "Especially me, because in the end, it was never about the wine, the shoes, or the suit. It was about the heart behind them." The lesson was simple. You can judge a man by the cut of his clothes, but you only learn who he really is when you choose to sit down and listen. Would you like me to format this for narration or screenplay next?